here are two individuals who will do something to help India win medals in Olympics, and you guys have done it.
Like I watched the state players, then I went to play national at the age of 12. So I watched the national players play there. So at 15, as represented the country, went out. That time I watched international players. So all the time I have learned only by watching. So there was no badminton at all in southern part of India. There was another sport called ball badminton. It was very, very popular. Anywhere in the south, if you came and asked anybody, do you play badminton? It meant ball badminton. So nobody played for money in those days. The people in the 60s, 70s, 80s, they just played for passion. Right. And if in the bargain you gain something, that was a bonus.
I think you have directly played a role, Prakash, in putting badminton on the map. Inspiring a whole generation of players. Anyone who is anybody in badminton in India has either worked with you directly or worked with someone that you have worked with. Prakash, welcome to SparX.
Thank you, Mukesh.
Really looking forward to this conversation.
Pleasure to be on your podcast.
Thank you. Yeah, I was just in preparation for this, Prakash. I was just going through your journey, and it occurred to me that you have been associated with the sports of badminton for 60 years. And I just imagining, that doing something, continuously from an early age till now, and still actively involved at the top end of the badminton. Now you're actively working with Sindhu in helping her prepare for the upcoming Paris Olympics. So you must the sports of badminton, you must feel like you know pretty much everything there is to know about this.
Yeah, probably, and I'm probably one of the few left, who probably know a little bit about Indian badminton, maybe from 1935 when the first national championships were held.
Right.
So I think it's important that we chronicle. I hope BI does something about this, because otherwise, there is no concrete history of Indian badminton. It could be very interesting. But to come back to my own journey, I started playing badminton in 1962 when I was a 7-year-old. My father moved from Bombay in around the mid-50s. And he had finished his graduation, worked there for 2-3 years. Then my grandparents were here, so they wanted him to come back. And he had seen badminton being played there. The top players at that time used to come and play in Bombay, some tournaments. People like Erland Kops, Eddie Chung, from Malaysia, from Denmark. Small events, but they were very popular events at that time. And a fairly popular sport in Bombay Gymkhana, CCI, small courts at that time. So when he moved here, there was no badminton, because in the 30s, 40s and 50s, it was mainly played in the other three parts, that is North India, West India and Eastern. So there was no badminton at all in southern part of India. There was another sport called ball badminton, which was very popular. Yeah, ball badminton, which was very popular.
I will find a footage of that. I've never heard of ball badminton.
No, if you Google, in fact, I've got a racket and a ball. It's like a kabaddi or kho-kho. It was basically played only in India. It was not an international sport. Okay. But it will be very interesting. That's why not many people know about this.
Probably a precursor of this pickleball in some way.
Yeah, no, pickleball is very recent. Right. This was, of course, they're trying to revive ball badminton. It was very, very popular. In fact, to the extent that anywhere in the south, if you came and asked anybody, do you play badminton? It meant ball badminton. Nobody knew what the shuttle was. And when I started, there were only 5 courts in the whole of Bangalore, only 5. And out of that, 3 were marriage halls.
Right.
So basically, marriage halls, if there was no wedding, like a multi-purpose, you could go and play badminton. So the place where I started, Canara Union in Malleshwaram, which is like a community center, basically a marriage hall. That's where I started. It's just 5 minutes away from my place. So from there to now, I'm told that there are about 5,000 courts in Bangalore itself. So shows the growth.
Yeah. And I think you have directly played a role, Prakash, in putting badminton on the map. Inspiring a whole generation of players. We'll come to that. I think pretty much anyone who is anybody in badminton in India has either worked with you directly or worked with someone that you have worked with, right? So I think that growth of the sports, been. And we'll cover the journey. But today, just I'm very curious to know, how do you, your instinct about the sport and, the intricacies, both, performing as a player at a top level and then coaching, multiple people over a period of time who have performed at top level. And just, do you think you're still learning about sports?
Yes, absolutely. I don't think anybody can say like in any field, that I've learned everything. Right. No, and especially in sport, like in any other field, it's changing so fast. I think if we must go back to a little bit about my own. When I first started, there were only 5 courts. I didn't have a coach. I didn't have any of the things which the modern players have. Yeah. But I was very passionate about badminton, right from a young age. My father used to play, so I used to go along with him. Like I said, in a marriage hall, just one court and, like 18 feet height, whereas the minimum required was 30 feet even at that time. A lot of girders. Yeah. But, I just used to, started going with him just for fun. I didn't even know that I'll play for the state. He used to play more for fitness. I used to go along with him. So some of the other state level players used to play there in that court because there were one of the few in North Bangalore at that time. So I started liking, I started at the age of 7 and my father he was a national level umpire. So he knew the basics, just the grip and the footwork, and so basics he's taught. Yeah. After that, I've just picked up on my own, just watching other players. Maybe, God had given me that, the instinct and the quality to learn by just observing, because there were no books, there were no camera, there were no videos, there were no computer, there was no coach. Yeah. So I just used to watch other players play and then just picked up on my own.
Amazing. I think you were national champion, I think, by the time you were 16 or 17.
Yeah, I junior national at 15 and then at the age of 16, I won both the junior and senior in the same year. On the same day.
Wow. Same day.
Yeah, because those days, there were no age categories. So there was under 19 and above 19, and they used to be held together. It was only much later in the late 70s, it was split. Yeah. Under 13 came, under 15, under 17, under 19. So when I started, there was under 19 and above 19, that's all. So because it was not a popular sport.
So you were self-taught in these 10 years pretty much, and then by
last 50 years I'm self-taught. Right. I'm happy in a way because I learned a lot, and I think I did lot. I learned a lot, by not being dependent on anybody. Made a lot of mistakes, trial and error. Completely a self-made player. Yeah. So I think that has given me a lot of insight into, not just my own game, because I had to study the opponent's games, how they play, what do they do. I've learned a lot also watching others and trying to improvise, depending on my own strengths and weaknesses. Right. I developed a style of my own over a period of time, which suited my, my type of game. Right. Because, later on, initially, like I watched the state players, then I, went to play national at the age of 12. So I watched the national players play there. Yeah. So, I watched them and then learned. So at 15, as represented the country, went out. Right. So that time I watched international players. So all the time I have, learned only by watching. Then coming back, not completely, trying to play exactly like the way they did. Yeah. Maybe pick up one stroke from this one stroke from the other person, one stroke, something which caught my eye, caught my attention, and try to see, if I could fit it in my own game. Yeah. So over a period of time, over a period of 10 to 15 years, of my playing career, I just kept on improvising, kept the base, the same. Using my own strengths. Right. One of the biggest mistakes which, according to me, a lot of people do is just try to copy, somebody who's number one, try to copy their style in toto. Whatever they do, you want to do the same thing. Yeah. I don't think I believe in that. Right. Because you have your own strengths, which the other people don't have. Right. Like, for Indians, we have very supple wrists. We've seen in cricket or, a lot of it comes naturally to us. Yeah. So because using the wrist in badminton, you can use deception, which for other players, it doesn't come easy. Physically, they are much stronger. Whereas mentally, we are much stronger in the sense, tactics, strategy, we can think and play. Whether those people don't, they don't have that kind of knowledge. Got it. So I used our own strength, right. And at the same time, you cannot say that, if you are very slow, you don't have stamina, you don't have speed, you don't have power, then also you can't last. Right. So you have to be reasonably good in whatever the current situation is, and at the same time, use your own strengths. Don't blindly copy whatever they do. Right. I think this is applicable even in the corporate life also. Right. Like if somebody is good in your own field, they are number one. Correct. It doesn't mean that you completely go and whatever they want to do, you do. Yeah. You analyze your own strengths, stick to them, take the good points from, from all the other competitors who are, maybe different aspects of, somebody's HR may be good, somebody's marketing may be good, somebody's sales thing may be good. So you stick to your own principles, make that even stronger, and take different points from different people, and come up with a style of your own, strategy of your own. And that, that's what I did, in badminton, and that I think has given me some results. And I'm very sure that if I had continued, try to emulate and played exactly like the way the Indonesians played or the Chinese played, I don't think I would have been successful, because I was not as fit as them. I could not have been, especially in those days, because that kind of training and facilities were not available, and even nutrition, the kind of science backup which they had, I didn't have. So I don't think, and maybe I would have, won the first game, but, I don't know whether I would have lasted, because physically, I don't think I could have matched them.
Right.
Because, if I had to beat them in their own game, I had to be faster than them, fitter than them, stronger than them, which I felt at that time was not possible.
Oh, amazing. So basically, I think the multiple, important principles, Prakash, you are highlighting, first of all, it's very impressive that, you were basically started practicing in a marriage hall, no coach, pretty self-taught, and still reaching the, becoming a number one player in the country by the age of 16, right? That's, and second thing, the method of learning. I think a lot of time, all of us complain about, lack of resources, lack of coaching, lack of this and that. But you're saying, you can just through observation, you can learn so much. As a human being, we are all some deep level very good, very imitation learners. But if you don't tap into that and pay attention to that,
absolutely.
And then nothing.
I agree with you.
Right. And third thing also, what you're saying is very important is ultimately find, just blind copying anyone else is then you're just trying to be somebody else, but you don't have that strength. I really like what you said, rest for deception.
Yeah, so you have to see what your strengths are.
Right.
And, all this I realized later, it just came, it was a trial and error. That's why it took me much longer. See, even though I won the Indian nationals at the age of 16, my first big victory in the international thing came at 23 and All England at 25. Yeah. So I had to wait for that long because, trial and error. So whatever I knew, we were maybe playing 3 tournaments, 4 tournaments.
Right.
And one of the first things, which really helped me and which probably is very relevant now is one of the first things which my father told me was not to complain about lack of facilities, lack of infrastructure. I never complained about anything. I want this, I want that. If you give me that, I will. I never complained. I focused on things which were in my hands, which were under my control.
Right.
I think it again, like when I sit back, maybe after I retired, I've realized all this, and not that I knew that time, but luckily it happened. I never complained about, lack of facility. I was happy, like there were 2 ways of looking at, I could play only 6 months. So there was one of the things, there was no third option. One option is you play for these 6 months or you don't play at all. These were the only 2 options. There was no third option available. Too much of choice these days also, makes it very, confusing for the parent, for the players, everybody. Right. So you have so many options.
How are those, the 6-7 years for you, Prakash, that, so you won this national, and now I'm sure by the time you have the ambition of becoming an international player. But in those days, I'm guessing, this was in the in early 70s. There's really no role model players. Maybe there's in Dhyan Chand, and maybe, I don't know, in cricket Gavaskar in the early days, but that's it. And I think, I don't know anyone who in the 70s, 80s was number 1 player in the world from India in any sport.
No, in fact, I think, if I go back, a lot of people say that I was probably the first one, and, the game went open in a professional sport. There was Wilson Jones in billiards, long back, just before even Geet City. Not just in sports, probably I was the first, person in any field from India, whether in business or in, cinema or in, to make a mark at the world level. Sports, I think definitely I was.
Right.
But my intention was, they were not, to create history, or it was just, my entire journey has been even now to challenge myself and see what best I can do. How can I get better? What more can I do? Can I do something different? Can I, and be a role model later, leave behind a legacy.
You have an incredible legacy, and we'll cover some of that for sure. But just again, going back to, just want to focus on your teenage years, early 20s. Were you what do you recall? You were very driven, just you continue thinking, obsessing
Absolutely.
about,
Just that. I really enjoyed playing. Like I said, never complain. I mean, maybe again, God's gift probably. Like so many times, we like I said, we used to play maybe 4 or 5 tournaments in the whole year. Out of that, sometime, we would travel by train, go to Delhi. These are all pre-liberalization days. Many of the youngsters, we don't even know.
Like what, 2-day trip?
Pardon? Yeah, 2-day trip. Yeah, and and not just me. A lot of other players during my time. Everybody has travelled unreserved, sleeping near the 2 days, 3 days. If we were to go to Assam or some place, 3 days. Sometimes. So I think let's not get into all those.
Right.
So it was very common in those days, like without sleep. So, but never complained, because again, the choice was either you do that or you stay at home.
Right.
So because there was no choice. No, we like the sport so much, We were so passionate about the sport.
Yeah.
We never looked at anything, inconvenience, what will we get out of this? Will we get money? Will we get fame? Will we get... No, I was just passionate. So go there, and so many times it has so happened that many times, like last minute we used to get clearances.
Yeah.
And so many times the team has been not cleared. So we've come back again 3 days traveling. So we went there, we said, fully packed, going for the tournament. Team not cleared, you come back.
Right.
No complaints, come back. Next day start playing again. Wait for maybe after 6 months, we don't know when the next tournament will come. But just enjoy, do your best. Every time I went on the court, I gave my 100%. Never, whether it was on the ground, whatever little I knew at that time, gym and all was, came much later. Otherwise, I would just run a few rounds or, come back to the marriage hall whenever there was an opportunity. If there was some wedding happening there, then play cricket or table tennis or any other, because there was no point complaining, because there was no, so I think that also, made a big difference, not to complain. 2 main important things, not to complain about anything, about, especially about things which are not in your control. The first thing I would ask myself at that time would be, is this, like government clearance? Is this in my hands? No, I can't do anything. So just come back. Don't complain. No point going to the press. No point, complaining to somebody, because it's not going to change the way. Instead, focus on come back. Go back to the gym. When you are in the court, when you are in the gym, if you are on the ground.
Yeah.
So, to give 100%, that is in your hands. So focus on that and then wait. The ultimate aim was to reach your potential. I didn't know what it would be. Whether I would be national champion for 8 years, 10 years, or world number 20 or world number 10. But, the whole thing was that, at the end of my career, when I, retired from the sport, I didn't want to have any regrets. That, if I had pushed a little more, So I think that I achieved to a great extent. And I think I reached my potential. I don't think I could have done anything more than what I did. So I have absolutely no regrets. That
there is nothing to go beyond number 1, Prakash. So
you could have, there are many players who won 8 All England titles. So that way, like Federer or 20, 25 Grand Slams. And so you could always...
How was that? So I think you're around 26, 27 when you won All England. I think next year you became, or the same year, number 1 player in the world.
Yeah.
Did life change for you significantly?
No, not really. No, in terms of, like recognition and all, yes, it did from, in those days, because there was not much TV.
Yeah.
There was no social media. So people did recognize me. But as far as I was concerned, it was the same. It didn't make any difference. The same court, the same friends, the same practice, same, everything same.
Yeah.
Because I realized that, later, maybe 1 year later, I realized that winning the title for the first time was much easier compared to retaining it.
Mentally or?
Mentally, physically, technically.
Other people also know your game. They would have studied, No,
also because you raised the bar.
Right.
See, if you have not won, so you are just somebody who's playing for the first time, you've not achieved anything. You reach the quarterfinals.
Yeah.
They'll say, oh, he's reached the quarterfinals. Very good.
Yeah.
He's in, then next time you say semi-finals. Then once you win, even if you reach the quarterfinal, they'll say, no, his performance has gone down.
Right.
Because you raised the bar.
Correct.
And then there is so much more tension to, everybody wants to beat you. They've studied.
Correct.
And for you to maintain that level all throughout, it's because the difference at the top is so little.
Right.
You cannot, be winning all the time. So it's just a, few points here and there.
Right.
So sometimes you will be down, sometimes you will be up. So you need to, put in a lot more effort.
Right.
So it's comparatively much easier to win the first time than to retain, to be there and to maintain. I think you probably need 3 or 4 times more effort.
Right.
Both technically, mentally and physically. You need to be constantly, I think very few people can do that, because a lot of pressure.
Right. And Prakash, today, obviously especially last 10 years, lot of money has come in sports, in cricket, badminton, and some other sports as well. But what was it like in those days? Was there enough money to make a living as a top player in the country, or was it hard?
Well, absolutely no money at all. In fact, the game went open. I first won the national championships in 71.
Right.
The game, badminton internationally, worldwide, went open only in 1979. So for 8 years, it was just the passion.
So you was just support yourself somewhere else?
Yeah, I was working in a bank.
Okay.
So that was all. And then if there was some prize money local here, national level tournaments, there were no endorsements, no nothing. It was just... And so until then, because it was an amateur sport, there was a rule that the maximum prize money, which even internationally you could, like even the All England, was 150 Swiss francs. So anybody who win, that was the maximum. It could be even 25 francs or 100 francs. So nobody played for money in those days.
Right.
So it was just the honor, just the satisfaction of, having won, being world number one. So it was not just me. I think most of the players during, my that time, the people in the 60s, 70s, 80s, they just played for passion.
Right.
They played, they played for pride.
Yeah.
They played because they wanted to represent the country. And if in the bargain, you gain something, that was a bonus. That was a bonus. But we never played with the intention of, I never played, that I will make a living or, compared, okay, if I do this, this is what I will earn. If I go into IIM, IIT and, or medical, become a doctor, this is what I earn. Never thought of that.
Right.
I just went in, took a lot of risks.
Right, of course, yeah.
Because, after I finished my 10, we had a sports quota. I could have gone into engineering or into the best medical college on sports quota because I was a national champion at that time. We had a sports quota in Karnataka. But I chose to, go into BCom, and I told my father, that I want to pursue badminton. He said, it's up to you. See, you have an opportunity, because there is no money here. And you have to, you can play up to 30, 32. What will you do post that?
Right.
You have to, because there's no money in badminton.
Yeah.
So, how will you take care of?
Right.
I said, I'll manage. I was so passionate. And he was gracious. My parents were, gracious enough to allow me to pursue my passion.
Right. That's amazing.
It's very different, from now.
Right.
Just imagine, and most of the 99% of the parents at that time would say, no, go studies. This is, we are talking of 60s, 70s, 69, 70. So in those days where I could have got into the best engineering or medical college, for them to say that, they said, okay, it's your life, you are passionate, but we will not be responsible for your future. But if you want to do it, we will not stop you, but you have to take care of yourself. We are not going to support you later.
So there's very progressive of them of that time, and also on your part also taking such a massive risk. But I think what's, for especially, I'll just, summarize for the youngsters in watching this is, realizing your passion and then you just pursuing with the utmost dedication, not complaining. I think it's a very powerful lesson because we all feel tempted to, something is not right. Only if I had that or this or raining outside and so on, right? And just having that, like, I'll do what in my control. There's always something in your control.
Yeah.
If nothing else, you can visually practice. You can imagine, what you
there'll
want
be so many things.
Right.
It depends on how you think. These days, I think the way the children think is very different. It may not be due to their mistakes. They've not been told. They've not been exposed.
Yeah.
They have not been told that you can also think this way. If you are passionate about something, go after it. Especially now.
Right.
Like I think a lot of opportunities now for unconventional fields.
Correct.
It doesn't have to be a chartered accountant or a lawyer or a doctor or an IAS officer. If you are very good in your field, my sincere advice to the parents nowadays would be to, if they are exceptionally talented, if they are very passionate, there is a difference between liking something, loving something and being passionate. If they are really passionate, that means they are willing to do anything. Work 16 hours, 18 hours, sleep late, wake up early, willing to sacrifice anything. Give them a chance, even though it's the most unconventional. It could be painting, it could be music, it could be dance, it could be anything.
Yeah.
Because they have an opportunity to be the best in the world.
Right.
And don't deny the opportunity to the children.
And parents need to be willing to take that risk, and because when you take a risk, things may not go as per plan and you'll have ups and downs, but comfortable with that.
See, the advantage of letting them do is, I think children nowadays are also very smart. The kids are very smart.
Yeah.
They will pursue for 2 years, 3 years. If they don't succeed, then they will decide for themselves. Most of them, I won't say everybody, they know, no, this is not working for me.
Right.
So, I have to get back into, something regular.
Yeah.
So maybe there will be a delay of 2 to 3 years.
Right.
So don't worry about that. Then what happens, you both have the satisfaction of having tried.
Yeah.
children after 20 or 30 years will not say that my parents didn't let me pursue.
Right.
And parents will have the satisfaction that I allowed my kids to, pursue their passion.
Right.
So, it didn't work out, fine, it's okay. Everybody will not succeed. Both will not have any regrets.
Right. And on top of that and I was talking to Vivek recently, and he was mentioning, when you train as an athlete, you also develop a lot of very critical life skills.
Absolutely.
Which will come in handy in every walk of life.
Yes, absolutely true. Right. In fact, so that's what we did, as parents, once we became parents, both our daughters. So we followed exactly what my father had told me. We told same thing to, both our daughters. Yeah. One was, into modeling and Deepika was into modeling and then she went into films. The other one was passionate about golf. So I never forced them to take up badminton.
Right.
So I said, on your own, if you want to pursue badminton, I'm there for you.
Yeah.
But I'm not forcing you any time to take up badminton because I played badminton, you have to play badminton. Right. Nothing like that. So Deepika did play badminton for some time, till about 15. But from our interaction with her, we knew that was not her first love. Her first love was modeling, being in front of the camera.
Yeah.
So we realized that she was passionate about that. Right. But at the same time, it was too early, to. So she would, do a few, few modeling as a child. She's done some modeling, but she continued playing. She trained. So now she says that the training which she got, that early morning discipline, the focus, the time management, the things which she learned by not being a professional player, just that, the off-court thing which she learned is helping her in her. She's openly said many times that, if she's different from a lot of other players, it's because of the competitive sport she played and the upbringing she had, waking up at 4:30 in the morning, going to the ground, coming back, going to school, doing the homework, as soon as you come back, there's no time for anything else. Right. So that whatever it taught, whether it is, time management, whether it is, being disciplined, your focus, concentration, so maybe a different level, but that also helps in any walks of life, and nowadays, even for the corporate, when they recruit people, they don't look only at, only at your academic, whether you are first in, in your competitive exam.
Right. Yeah,
what are the other skills, right?
You learn also, dealing with ups and downs. You win sometime, you lose sometime.
Yes.
You become open to feedback.
Absolutely.
Because your coach is always telling you in corporate, a lot of people are, very stuck up,
Sometimes, these days you can actually, when you interact, sometimes you can make out if a person has played a sport or not. Right. Just by their conversation, and I'm not talking of professional sport. Right. Even if you just played a sport, it's enough.
Right.
Because in sport, you learn, the biggest thing which you learn is, to accept defeat.
Right, correct.
You may be the, son of whoever, the richest person in the world, but if you come, somebody will come and beat you, then, there's no... So you learn, you brought your ground.
How to
so then
back,
then you think, whoever you may be, what did I do wrong? Why did I, lose? How can I beat him the next time? Yeah. You start thinking, and this kind of thinking will help you, as you grow in your school, in your college, in your corporate life, and the ability to accept defeat. Yeah. Like in the corporate, it's so competitive. Yeah. You bid for so many, tenders or, everything you won't win. There'll be a lot of failure, there's a lot of negative. Yeah. So if you played a sport, so whatever you have learned in that, the ability to, to accept defeat, it may not be direct, but indirectly you've learned to analyze, how to come, how to get over those, those difficulties, and to make sure that you don't repeat the same mistakes again.
That's right. Yeah. So I'm 100% with you, Prakash. I was so grown up playing a lot of sports, never really played competitively at any level.
No, it doesn't have to be.
But I think it has enabled me to, first of all, your love of being active in fitness.
Yes.
And I think it all trains your mindset in a certain manner, which I think has been very helpful to me in, throughout my, professional career. And I think, Prakash, so for you, I want to come back to, just maybe continue on this area. As towards not even towards the end of your professional career, you start getting involved in coaching, other players and kids fairly early in your. So what was the thought process? Like, how do you start to make the transition where you felt I can, teach, next generation of players?
No, so that was post my retirement. Okay. Because, I was very clear that as long as I played, my full 100% attention was on sports. So as soon as I retired, I, took a break because, I started very early. I had a long career. So I wanted to pursue other sports. I played a lot of tennis.
Okay.
I played squash. I played some cricket. I played some basketball, played some table tennis, whenever, not
recreationally.
Just for recreationally. Right. Because I like to, I couldn't do all these when I was, so maybe 4 or 5 years, and then started my academy.
Right.
I realized that, during my playing days, there was a lot of talent and the association was not doing anything about that. So I felt really bad. Maybe I had God was kind enough and I was able to pick up and, do something on my own. But everybody is not, so talented or not so gifted. So, but I was feeling sad that, so many, and all of them, of course, couldn't afford. Most of them from middle class or lower middle class families. So I felt that, if we were to do something, if we want to raise the standard of Indian badminton, we have to do something which a lot of the other Asian countries was happening at the national level.
Right.
Like year-long camps. All the year fully funded camps, coaching camps throughout the year. So they select the best players, put them in a camp. Everything is taken care by the federation. They get funds from the government. But here, nothing of that sort because badminton, association was not proactive. So that's when I realized, we discussed with Vimal and Vivek. And in '94, we started the first badminton academy. With the first, ours was the first badminton academy in the world.
Badminton academy in the whole world.
In the whole world, with badminton academy. I'm not talking of other sports, which was privately funded. We got BPL to sponsor us, unheard of in those days, in '94. In fact, this year we'll be completing 30 years. Nobody could think of organizing year-long camps. Like throughout the year, we selected players. They came to move to Bangalore. Throughout the year, they would stay with us. We coached. We provided them food, training, whatever, with funds, whatever little funds we got from the sponsors at that time. Absolutely no government support. And so far, we've, like 30 years, we've done that. And now the number of academies which are there. So we were the first ones.
Right.
So also, what gives me greatest satisfaction is, I've done a lot of things where I've shown the way. I've been the pioneer. Whether it was winning the junior senior for the first time, it just happened. When you look back, first Indian to win the All England, first one to start the badminton academy. So now there are thousands of academies. Every player who was retired also has a academy in his own name.
And later on we'll come to OGQ, but this other thing, you were a pioneer in. But these things of, all this require an element of risk, some bit of foresight. Was it easy for you in some ways, or or you were just deliberately pushing, beyond the limits and trying to see what can I do?
No, it was quite easy. And, I think what motivated me or, I wanted to challenge myself. And one of the things which, always had, the thing which pushed me in this was, I was never after money. So I think that was one thing which, whether it was awards, rewards, money, it was not a first priority for me. For me, whatever I was passionate about, I wanted to follow that. And whatever, money that gave me, it was enough. For me, that satisfaction of, having tried something, wanting to do. Like if I had started this, badminton academy, this excellence, it's not a commercial, this thing. It's a not-for-profit. We, 30 years, we were dependent only on that. But we still managed because it was giving us job satisfaction. We were trying to help. At that time, if I had started commercial, I could have probably, gone public by now.
Right.
My academy could have gone public. But money was not the, right from my childhood. And it's not that I had to make an attempt. I was happy with whatever little I had. And I don't say that, money is not important. It is important. But it's not that it was not, and it still continues. It doesn't happen to be the number one priority for me. As far as I'm concerned, my, health is the number one priority. My, peace of mind is second. Probably money will come third. So, I always keep that in mind. Whenever I take a decision, it has to, be appealing to me. I have to be satisfied. I've tried something. Even if it means taking a risk, it may not really be rewarding. I'm training Sindhu now, so I'm not charging anything. I just want to see whether, I'm able to help her.
That's amazing.
Similarly, academy or any of the things which I've done. So
in the academy, in last 30 years, do you have any estimate of how many kids you would have trained?
Well, it's a very few. Maybe totally we would have trained about 500 kids.
And these are the elite athletes, people who are competing.
Very athlete, maximum 30 to 40 athletes. And it's not like, all these 30 graduate go to the next one and you take another 30. Because they have been with us for, 10 years, 15 years, like Lakshya Sen, for example.
He's doing incredible well. And I think you spotted Prakash very early.
So we spotted him at the age of 9.
Amazing,
He's 22 now. Earlier, Anup Sridhar, he was 7, I think, when he joined. He was with us till 11 or 12. He was with us till 30. So people have been with us for a very long time. If they continue progressing, we'll continue to support them.
Yeah.
It's not that, like high school or, okay, in 10th standard you finish, you go somewhere else. Right. So, as long as they continue, of course, if they don't perform, then we take them out. So the intake every year is maybe 4 or 5 in a year.
Sure.
So, if you have 30, 40, 4, 5 will go out, 4, 5 will come in. Because we can't,
Right.
So this is a very, very prestigious and very few people can get in. And it's entirely funded. Once they come into the academy, everything is paid by the sponsors. They don't have to worry about anything. Entire ecosystem, especially now with the, the Center for Sports Excellence coming up. Everything, boarding, lodging, kit, coaching, the entire sports science. They have physios, they have trainers, they have dietitians, they have mental trainers, gym, video analysts, blood tests, everything is taken care. And in fact, some of the promising players, we even send them out for tournaments at our cost.
Got it. Amazing. And so now at least hopefully you're saying the sports have come to a level where enough sponsors are coming up and able to provide.
Yeah, there's a big change. Like I said, one of the examples was when we started in 62, it was just 5 courts and as again now 5,000. In fact, all over India, I don't know, how many badminton courts are there. Nobody has made a count. It could be close to, 500,000 or something like that. I'm sure because, it's the kind of, feedback which we get, the way the game is growing. Lot of courts are coming up in tier 2 and tier 3 cities also, 3 courts, 4 courts, wooden courts, getting really popular.
Sure.
And all of this is not necessarily people who want to play want to play professionally. Lot of players are taking up badminton for fitness.
Right.
They've always wanted to, but they didn't have the facility. But now I think it is like commercially viable for some of the people to put up, to take a place on lease, put up a structure, with 3 courts, 4 courts, whatever in a centrally located place. People will come and pay every like it's become popular in some of the states. It's not caught on throughout the country, but per hour you pay. You don't have to be a member. Something like what you do in in Cult.
The sports is becoming very popular. But just staying with the this top end for a minute. So I think over the last 30 years we've been running PPBA. I think if I'm not mistaken, at some point even Gopi trained with you.
Yes.
Then eventually went into his academy, and then we have India has produced like a lot of top players. People who went into among the top few in the world in the I think more in women probably. But off late, right? But and as I was saying earlier, you've been fairly involved in many of those players, one way or other, in their journey. And you think we have at a point the enough players are now in the pipeline that India can in some ways, think of among the top badminton, countries?
Absolutely. Like, we very rightly pointed out, initially, for a number of years, there used to be only one player. Like when I was there, I was the only one. The next, there was such a big gap.
Yeah.
Then, a player called Syed Modi, he came up to some level. So then there was a big gap. Then after that, we had to wait for Gopi for almost 20 years. Gopi Chand was there. Only one player again. Between him and the next, again, there was a big gap.
Right.
It was only, I think, maybe 2010 or, more in the last 15 years.
Yeah.
The game really picked up. And I think it started with the Commonwealth Games in Delhi. The interest came up, the infrastructure came up. Then I think the turning point later, I think the first turning point, as far as Indian badminton was my 1980 All England victory.
Yeah.
And the next one I would probably feel is the, Saina's Olympic medal, bronze medal is the Olympics in 2012, I think it was.
2012, right.
In London. I think that was another turning point. So, the Olympic medal, so that the government support increased.
Yeah.
A lot more focus on, so then, because the talent was always there. Talent was always there. Like I said, from my time, talent was there, but the players were not getting the right opportunities. They were not being recognized. They were not being rewarded. Mainly due to lack of, organizational and also because of lack of funds. Right. But the moment funds became available, lot more academies came up. The government came up with, sports centers of excellence through SAI, and more recently, the Khelo India, and so it's really spread. Right. Now I think we don't have to worry. It's really on the right track, and we have a bunch of players now. It's not just you're not dependent on one. Course, yeah. I think if we see right now, I think in the top 50 there are 6 or 8 Indian men's singles players. In the top 50 in the world.
Right. Amazing.
Like 1 or 2 in the top 10. maybe in the top 23, in the top 34, in the top 56 men's singles players.
So does it mean that now, we have Olympics coming up? You think we have serious shot at some?
We have. I think, all the 3 Olympics last 12, 16 and 20, we won a medal, at least one medal. So, of course, I think we've not won a gold so far. So, I think my, aim would be, I think we should try to get a gold. Otherwise, 2012, Saina won a bronze. Sindhu won a silver, I think in 16, 20 she won a bronze. Then I think World Championships we've got a couple of bronze, in men's singles. And men's doubles we are doing well now. Earlier, all these years we were very good in singles. We were not good in paired events. Yeah. But last 3 years or 4 years we've got the world number 1 doubles pair. Satvik and Chirag, who are the world number 1 in doubles. So shows the the way the game is growing. Of course, in between we had Jwala Gutta and Diju winning a bronze in the World Championships in mixed doubles. Okay. But so overall, I think things are looking up, and I think that there will be no looking back now. There are enough sponsors, enough foundations, enough government support. I think it will only grow. And we can be very positive about the future of Indian badminton.
That's amazing. You will keenly watch the coming Olympics and also the just development of sports overall. So Prakash, you have done so much for the sports of badminton. I think variety of ways over the last 60 years. But you also contribute to other sports. I think you and Geet started OGQ in 2008, which was also a very ambitious, bold initiative. Here is again a private effort. 2 former players coming together saying, instead of complaining about why India does not win medals in Olympics, you said we are going to come together, we are going to do something about it. Now, Olympic, as we all know, it's ultra competitive, a lot of countries with deep infrastructure, a lot of funding, sporting culture and so on. What is the thought process? Like, I know you already said you've been pioneer in many fields, but when that is a different level altogether, saying like, here are 2 individuals who will do something to help India win medals in Olympics, and you guys have done it. I think from what I understand, and it's been an honor to be part of an OGQ board for the last 7 years, but majority of the medals that India is able to win in Olympics is some parts at least, facilitated by efforts of OGQ. So walk me through a journey of how did this whole thing start?
Well, I think to be frank, Mukesh, I don't think when Geet approached me and they said we should do something about it, we did start. But we never expected that it will reach this stage. I think we've been lucky to find the right people, because again, it's something similar to what we did with PPBA. That was only for badminton to provide a platform for the youngsters to excel. By providing them, by guiding them, by financial assistance. So PPBA was only for badminton and OGQ was for all sports. So that was the major difference. So, but I think also the difference in PPBA and OGQ was, I think the way the OGQ board is set up. It's an amalgamation of sports people and the corporates, entrepreneurs, which has never happened before. I think again a first of its kind. If you ask me, from the experience of I've learned so much from the OGQ board meetings, which is helping me in my personal life or how to run, academy or, my other, business ventures. Actually, if you give me a choice, I always keep thinking that all the sports federations in the country, including the IOA, Indian Olympic Association and the sports federations, should be run like OGQ. A combination of sports people and professionals and corporates and entrepreneurs who have no other interest but to promote sports. And so it's a great idea to where anything connected with sports, the sports people are there to give their expert opinion. And when it comes to fundraising, compliance, statutory, audit, legal, forming policies. So we take the help of the corporate. So I think it's a great idea to merge or to bring the corporates and the sports top sports people together. And it's a professional board, 14, 15 member board with diverse views, but with only one thing in common. We just want to help Indian sports. So I think that is what differentiates, OGQ from, many of the other foundations. But to be frank, Mukesh, like I said, I never expected that, OGQ will reach this level in about 15, 16 years now. We are lucky to have, an excellent board. Right from day one, and people who are very passionate about sports, whether they are ex-sports people or I think we've also been careful to choose the right kind of people on the board. But I think more than anything, I think I give a lot of credit to the team led by Viren Raskina, who I think who implement the decisions of the board. Right. So that is how a ideal sports federation should be run. Like the National Sports Federation. Like OGQ board should have a committee or board, whatever you call it. They take the decisions and leave the implementation to the professionals. Right. Choose the right people whose only interest is to to promote sports and to see how we can help sports people. Right. But I'm knowing the sports the way sports federations are set up here. It may not happen in the near future. It may not happen in our lifetime. But my hope. That at least going forward in the next 30, 40 years, I hope all the sports federations will start working like OGQ, only for, with no other interest. People who are interested in sports only come there, head the sports federation. They can do so much more because, there is talent. There is absolutely no doubt about the talent available in the country, not just in badminton, but in any sport. It's just you need the vision. You need people, who have the foresight. To identify such people, make plans for them. There is no shortage of talent. There is no shortage of funds. It's just a question of execution. Right. Finding the right people and giving them the freedom to run. And I'm sure, like Indian sport can be, totally different. Because of course, government support is definitely required, especially to create infrastructure. But post that, I think, corporates are willing to support, because, from the experience of OGQ, we know, what they look for is transparency in the donation which they give. You have to give them feedback, how the money is being used. So all these things, is a good indication that, sports can really be, there is a lot of talent. And if we do it the right way, the OGQ way, I think a lot more medals, we can get in the, Olympics going forward.
It's, from my early association with OGQ, what I realized, Prakash, it's a group of people, first of all, very, very passionate and really committed to, they want to see India with medals. And the whole organization is run very transparently. And, I was sometimes coming from corporate, I felt, the governance standards are even higher here, where sometimes why are people discussing, such a tiny budget also. But I think, that transparency, build trust with the donors, with the ecosystem. I think that's something, and in OGQ, overall budgets have been very small in the overscheme of things. But with that tiny bit of budget, the kind of impact OGQ has created, it's just mind-boggling. So I think you are right that, in some ways, while OGQ has directly helped a lot of athletes, but also created a template and a model that anyone who has deep interest in sports, and I think OGQ is very open and transparent about sharing all learnings, all expertise.
Absolutely. Because there is no personal interest. Right. Anybody is, anybody wants any help. Right. We are working closely with the government. We are working closely with the federations. We are working with the sports ministry. In fact, the top scheme, and our CEO is on some of these committees, and it's not to, to influence our athletes or anything. But, in framing policies for the, and I think the sports ministry and the SAI, they look up to OGQ, for whatever we are doing, so they try to follow whatever is possible. Of course, government being government, they have some restriction. They are not, they cannot be as open as we are. Not open, but we can take decisions, but in some cases, government will be restricted, for certain things, if they want to hire coaches, they have to go through a procedure. But we have that flexibility of, we can do things faster. But I think a lot of the things we are able to, to help and navigate and support the government, sports ministry and the SAI and the top scheme to implement, how the money should be utilized. They have their own research, so whatever OGQ has done, if they find something useful there, they try to replicate that. So that also is our indirect contribution for Indian
100%.
sports.
And
I think that itself shows,
Yeah.
that we are doing something right. And I think we are here just for the sports people.
Right. Yeah, no, I think, and sports does a lot of things, to the overall psyche of a country. I think, every time you mentioned, when Saina won that 22 bronze, like whole country celebrated.
Absolutely.
Right? So there is
Absolutely.
a lot of pride that comes with it. We are also, India is doing very well in all walks of life. We all feel so proud of where economy is, where it is going. But part of that, we also see India on the world stage.
Yeah, in fact,
sports.
Compared to, let's say, 20, 30 years back, nobody watched Olympics, nobody watched other sports, maybe only cricket. But now, when Olympic comes, it probably overshadows even if there is a cricket match going on. I think there'll be more people watching Olympics than a cricket, whether it's a one-dayer or... So we've come a long way since then. So, the sports culture has also changed. And, people have realized that, parents, the mindset of the parents have changed, mindset of the people have changed. They are, prepared to encourage children to take up sports. You see so many parents bringing the kids to, not necessarily, of course, they want the kids to do well, but in case they don't do well also, from health point of view, it's a good activity. Otherwise, they'll be wasting their time, on social media or, just walking here, there. And so, like we said, earlier, sports teaches a lot of good things. So overall, I think, the sports culture is getting better. Infrastructure is getting better. More complexes are coming up. So, parents are now, putting the children, into sports, which is a good sign, in the overall development of the country.
So Prakash, one aspect of OGQ I want to double click. In business world, people use this term, moonshot. The idea of moonshot is something, so ridiculously difficult that even, you can't even imagine where to start. I would feel, saying, for two individuals, even though Geet and you were very professionally successful in your sport, but for you to say that we are going to build an organization which will help India with multiple medals at Olympic, it's, truly a moonshot. So what was just early years of that? And it's not like you guys started with the 100 crore, 1,000 crore funding, right? It was bootstrapped, very little funding. Just the early years of, how do you have such a massive vision and just start at grassroots levels where you have to probably recruiting first 5 athletes, working with them. It's just because I want to translate into anyone who has big dreams, who want to take moonshot, and whether someone wants to work on climate problem or, roads, or anything that you think, Bangalore lakes, are drying up, water problem. How should one approach these moonshot kind of things?
No, I think, first of all, you should be clear about your vision. What do you want to do with it? And choose the right people. It's not every time, first 4 or 5 years, I think we actually registered OGQ as Foundation for Promotion of Sports and Games as early as 2002 or 2003. It's just me and Geet.
Right.
So for 4 or 5 years, there was nothing happened because, we didn't know how to go forward. Then I think Geet met 2 of our early board members, from the corporate world, Ramraj and Shitin Desai. So they said, I think Geet knew them, from his earlier, from his earlier days. And, they promised, each one of them, I think, wrote a check for 25 lakhs or something. Okay, you start off something. So that's how the whole thing started. Then we said, okay, we'll take one more, take one more, So then they suggested some more.
Yeah.
So slowly the board grew. And, we started with like 25 lakhs.
Yeah.
I think now, we are, talking in crores. So I think the biggest turning point for OGQ was, I think, getting Viren on board. I think that completely changed, the way he's, executed the decisions of the board.
Right.
That one person can really, because I think he had the ideal, he was the ideal candidate.
Right.
With, having played for India in hockey, captained the Indian hockey side, ISB, MBA from ISB, and the passion.
Right.
That same passion as the board.
Right.
That there's no other, so I think very difficult to find people like Viren. And then he built the team.
Yeah, correct.
Now I think we are close to, including the sports science team, more than 100 people now. So, and slowly the ideas came. The board expanded. Right. Each one contributed.
I think Viren is a great asset, not only for OGQ, but I think for the sports in the country.
Absolutely.
He's been at it for last, I think, 15, 16 years.
Yes.
And very unique skill set, right, as you mentioned, right? Played sports at the highest level for the country.
Yeah.
MBA from ISB, which is a top college in the country. and then totally competing himself. I think kudos to both him and you guys to take a bet on him and him to take a bet on OGQ.
Yeah.
And slowly nurturing the organization for all these years.
Absolutely.
And now we are starting to see results, right?
Yes.
OGQ can go from strength to strength. But I think, are there, how do we translate, OGQ model more broadly? I think, for India to really ideally, if you look at the population and as you mentioned, the talent in the country, we should be among the top 10, medal winners in the Olympics. That should be the ultimate ambition. So how do we scale in OGQ like effort?
It may not be easy, because you need to find the right people. You need the people with vision. You need, it may be difficult to exactly replicate.
Yeah.
But, I see, more and more corporates coming into, into forming their own foundations and wanting to support sports. So that is also a welcome.
Right.
But the only difference there is, here it is like a mass movement.
Yeah.
Like OGQ, we have probably 1,000 supporters.
Yeah.
From the smallest somebody donating 1,000 rupees to, 2 crores, 3 crores, 5 crores. Whereas, let's say like a Reliance or a JSW, they depend only on one corporation or one big. So that's also, one model which, so I see more chances of that happening.
Yeah.
Bigger corporations, on their own, maybe they take support from somebody else, but it will be called, like the Reliance Foundation or JSW Foundation or, so many other.
Prakash, I will take the liberty as a OGQ board member to put in a small plug that anyone watching this, if they're interested in supporting OGQ, just go to OGQ website and it has all the details and people can contribute for anything from few hundred rupees to whatever they wanted, because the whole organization is, heavily dependent on donor funding. We have people who are ardent, sports fan and they really want to see India do well, and it's because of, their contribution also.
Initially, Mukesh, I think, our aim was, like people contributing 100 rupees, but we wanted 10 million people so that everybody feel that if somebody wins a medal, so I've also contributed something in this. Yeah. But that didn't work out.
Right.
But I think that will still be our aim if somebody can suggest and how we can do that.
Right.
Like everybody we want, 100 rupees or, 500 rupees, you do something, but, large number of common people also contributing. Mm-hmm. I think that was our vision, initial vision. But somehow we couldn't, do that. But I think if it is possible, I think we would be the happiest. Me and Geet would be the happiest if, we have 1 million or 10 million people coming and contributing small amounts. So that is what, we want it to be more like a movement, not just few corporates or a few HNIs, to be. I'm not saying that we don't want them. We definitely want them. But along with that, if we can get, a big number of...
Let's hope some more people watching this get inspired. Reach out to OGQ or Viren or write to me directly and I point them to the right folks. So Olympic, one extreme, which is, highest level of performance. It requires almost a lifetime of training to be able to excel at that level. But when, people do well, it inspires many other people. We all like watching sports people at their peak performance, get inspired and so on. On the other hand, then there's sports as a recreational activity. It's fitness, it's community building. It's also very meditative because when you're playing sport, you're not thinking, your phone is not with you. Nothing else. And on that, mentioned, you said that, the badminton alone has come a long way. 5,000 courts in Bangalore, and probably I'm guessing 10 times as many in India. So just talk a bit about that. How are you seeing at the grassroots levels, just the evolution of sports, and like we as a country, we are mostly still sports watching people.
I think that is changing. We were sports watching people. Now it is changing. I think one of the main reasons is probably we still, compared to the size of our population, the infrastructure we have is still not enough. And especially if you are talking of grassroots level, because parents have to take them. So unless we spread this in the schools, where they finish activity in the school itself, because nowadays, both parents work. So it's not, not everybody has the advantage of having grandparents and, the joint families are not there. So, one of the parent has to take the child to, after they come back from school, whatever sport, whether it is gymnastics, swimming, athletics, badminton, cricket. So unless the the infrastructure is available in the next in the radius of 3 to 5 kilometers. It is difficult for the parents to take them far away. So I think we need to still develop more infrastructure, but it's happening, very slowly.
Yeah. And on that, I know, one of your organization, PSM, you work on, facilitating infrastructure development. So let's say there's somebody who is interested in setting up a badminton court, I'm guessing 4-court setup or 8-court setup. What does it take? Just maybe give a picture of, how should one think about it? Is it how to have a good quality facilities?
No, I think, a lot of people, I think, they want to put up good structures, which are aesthetically good. It need not be. One has to, it can be more like a hangar, like an aircraft hangar, where you don't spend too much on the infrastructure itself.
Yeah.
But, the playing facilities has to be good. It can be just, just a 10-feet wall and then you build just a very temporary small thing. The good flooring, good lighting, good changing rooms. So economical, economical way of, so the playing facility has to be good. And after that, you make sure once the infrastructure comes up, you have to make sure that, the infrastructure is not kept locked for even a minute. The idea is to utilize right from morning till night, for different activities, for coaching, for playing, for events, try to get the schools nearby to come and use. So you have to keep generating revenue. It is possible to monetize the popularity of the sports. And that is what, PSM, is working towards. And that is what excites me now, maybe in the last 2 or 3 years. Vimal now looks after more of the day-to-day activities of the PPBA because I feel that I've done enough for the excellence part. I'm focusing more on the grassroots level programs. So there's a big opportunity, because I know about badminton, so I can say about that. I'm sure it's the same, in all the other sports. A lot more, funding can come into it. A lot more, especially swimming. Everybody is. So if we can get again, something we can work on like the OGQ model, where the sports people and the corporates can come together, and just do one pilot project for one sport. Then it is possible in the next 5 to 10 years, it can really grow. And we are not dependent right now. I think we are a lot dependent only on the government for creating infrastructure. It can be a private partnership which can commercially be viable. It's not just it need not be just like for a you do it for a charity or something like that. And it's possible to build infrastructure, whatever different sizes, depending on the popular the location, what kind of sports are popular there. What will give you the commercial viability. So you think of all that, and I think it will be different in different places. Small size, big size, medium size. You need to study a little bit, and then because sports is very unorganized, Mukesh. Because of, but I can see a lot of because of that. I think there is a delay in because there is not much data available. Like for example, you were talking of badminton is such a popular sport. Even the Badminton Association of India does not know how many courts are there or how many players play badminton. So we don't have any data to rely on anything. Suppose we want to make a presentation to a fund. We want somebody to. So we don't even have the basic data. So that is where the problem starts. But I think the mindset is changing. It is possible. The game is because it's all about the grassroots level will include fitness. People who play for fitness, health. So health, fitness, and sports. I think I see that growing in the next 10 years. So we are not talking of professional. That will happen. So because of them, at the bottom, because the excellence is at top of the pyramid. We are looking at bottom of the pyramid, where the kids and even the adults who play for fitness. Everybody does not want to go to a gym, does not want to go for a walk, does not want to run. But they can play some sport like swimming, squash, badminton, football, basketball, whatever it is. So if we can organize this and get some funding and build some nice, good. I think it can be a commercially viable option as well.
Like as Cult, we are working on it. We're trying to organize some of the sports. It's growing slowly. It's called the division is Cult Play. But I think as you were also earlier mentioning, we need a lot more quality facilities to come up. As if let's say somebody has a land or interest in building facility, if they reach out to PSM, like do you have offering?
Absolutely. Like we start right from right now we are focusing on badminton. Right from consultancy to we've done a few places where they were thinking of building 2 courts. And we've said no, you put up 6 courts in a small place. And they said what do we do? Who will come? And in the next 2 years they are saying that badminton has become their main revenue earner, more than their bar, more than their canteen, more than the rooms. And now they want to increase the number of, in 2 years or 3 years, in a small place, in Nasik. So, there are a few places where, so people are, so we definitely, can guide depending on the popularity of the sports, and then also then take over and run the facility as well, because we know how to monetize, how to, like I said, you have to keep the, the courts occupied.
Yeah.
You have to bring in you need to have different ideas, you need different staff.
Yeah.
So that, once infrastructure is built, it should never be kept locked.
That's amazing.
What is happening in most of the private clubs right now is, it's used only for, let's say, 6 hours in a day.
Right.
Morning, sometime, the members come and play. The whole after it's closed, then maybe 1-2 hours children play, and then another 2 hours, again, the members come and play. Rest of the time, it's all locked.
Right.
It's absolute waste. There are people who are wanting to, of course, I don't blame the clubs because they have memberships. So people who have paid, it has to be. But I'm talking of public places where, even the corporations or the government, if they can build and not for charity, and it can be a profitable venture for both, for the, let's say the, BBMP or, if they build something and they give it to, like, they're doing with swimming pools now. They tie up with somebody, they give the running to them. Yeah. And it can not only take care of the operational cost, but also, give some, money to the owner, whoever is the builder. So it's definitely possible. And these things will only grow.
Right.
Because there is still a big shortage of infrastructure, as far as we are concerned. And parents are willing to pay, either for coaching or for playing, because a lot of them don't even think of playing. Because there is no infrastructure. The moment you create infrastructure, if they know that, okay, there is a place nearby, new people will start, it has happened with badminton. People who were just playing on the roads have now got an opportunity. Maybe, it's not happened all over. It's happened in Bangalore, it's happened in Hyderabad. These are the two main centers. So we have so many pay and play facilities. Probably happened in NCR, in Gurgaon, in, Delhi, Noida. So wherever the IT crowd is there. So I think, a lot of these pay and play facilities have come, and, commercially viable facilities. And they are growing. People, who have one center want to make 2, want to make 3. So it shows that it is possible to...
So let's hope some more people consider, building more, good quality.
It doesn't have to be very flashy, but, just so that it becomes, commercially viable.
So Prakash, you have... basically, entire spectrum of sports, from PPBA, where you are focusing on excellence for last 30 years, training people to win Olympics in, world events and Olympics and so on, to OGQ, where, supporting athletes across all sports to help India win Olympic medals, to PSM, where you're trying to, grow the infrastructure at a grassroots level. So, it's a full spectrum. And, I've had the privilege of knowing you for last 10 years. Joking, but serious. I don't see your age at all. You have same energy, same passion, and and still very excited about new projects. And just talk about your mindset, because sometimes people post 60 they start to slow down, takes life thing easy, but doesn't look at your.
No, I think. Of course, I can't do it myself. Like I take it easy. I build a team, and I don't set targets. Like this is what it has to be in 1 year. It has to be like that 2 years. Sometimes it doesn't happen the way I want. I'm okay with that. If it happens, it's fine. Yeah. But like I always feel that I should try. I should not have any regret. Like my olden days, this thing. So if it succeeds, it's fine. If it doesn't succeed, fine. I have the satisfaction of having tried.
Yeah.
So when I try something new, only if I'm really passionate, then I get into it, not otherwise. Like excellence, I did 30 years. I was, at that time, I think I was literally, like I had almost retired. During COVID, it happened. Then PSM, was being run by, my CEO. So I was, hardly involved in that. Then COVID happened and the CEO also left. So then suddenly, realized that, what's happening. So I was forced to get into PSM, to go into the details.
Yeah.
How can we manage? How can we survive? There's so many coaches were already there, and there was nobody I couldn't hire a new person. So I got into it, and then I found it very interesting. Yeah. Then I told Vimal, okay, now you look after I'll be there to help, in the long term, like on the board but day to day, you look after the excellence part. So, I got into PSM. I found it very interesting. So I always knew, and then the more I got into it, so it's almost like a new life for me.
Right.
So
Amazing.
I think OGQ and everywhere, I think, we have a good team. So, I'm not, depending on, I don't spend too much time myself.
Right.
But, just enough so that I have enough time with family. I have enough time to do other things.
Right.
Maybe I work for 4 hours a day. But at the same time, I'm involved and I'm fully involved in whatever I do in terms of, advising, in terms of I connect people and then, leave it for the professionals to run.
Yeah.
So I think I'm lucky and, I'm able to manage
Right.
all my interests.
Your energy and commitment and passion, still, in some way starting new project, looking to scale things. And
My family keeps complaining that, you are never retiring. And
but as a result, you are also not aging, right? So there's a...
No, so that is one of the, I firmly believe that you have to keep your mind occupied. Not, that you get stressed out.
Yeah.
That, not you invest so much and, so not that kind of,
Right.
just to keep yourself occupied 3-4 hours a day where you, totally cut off from everything. You focus on what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And I think that's important to remain young, to remain, mixed with youngsters and, not have, too much of worries.
Right.
And have a, peaceful, you should be able to sleep peacefully in the night.
Nice. That's right.
I think that's important. Like I said, for me, my, health comes first.
Yeah.
Peace of mind second. I have to be very peaceful, no tension. And, third will be, money. So, so in that order, I generally tick if all of these come and, within my, I'm able to manage, then I say yes. Otherwise, there's so many other, offers have come, to be on this committee or that committee, which doesn't really fit into my this thing. Then I give a regret. So whatever I take up, I try to do it, passionately and to the best of my ability.
That's amazing. I think that's a great order of things, health, obviously, without good health, really nothing. Peace of mind.
Because, a lot of, especially these days, youngsters, they work so hard.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't realize. I think it's important that you have all the money, but you don't have health, you don't have peace of mind. What will you do with the money? It's no use. So I think you have to prioritize, what is important. Even if it's little money, doesn't matter. Whatever you have, you make use of that. Be happy with what you have. Try to live within your means. You gradually it will grow. Once you grow, then you can always, and don't compare yourself with others. Like our neighbors or somebody else is doing this, so they are going abroad, so I also have to go abroad. No, if it is you can't afford, you can't afford.
90% of world's problem will go away if people stop comparing with other people and just focus on their own thing. But Prakash, I want to thank you. I think you've been an incredible role model. I think what you have personally accomplished in sports as a player, what you have given back to sports, so inspiring. What you have done for sports as a whole through OGQ, and you continue to learn. You're very humble, down to earth. It's just so much to learn from you. I'm so glad you're able to take time and share your journey with us.
People great honor. In fact, I've never done a podcast before. This is the first one. I didn't even know what a podcast was. So I'm glad that I'm able to come with you. I've a big fan of yours. For what you've done. Like partly in the in the gym and in the sports industry. You can say gym as part of the and earlier also what the way you built. So I think you've been a role model yourself. I think I've read your book. So I think it's a great honor for me to be talking and I'm glad. I hope the viewers will learn something from my experience. I always say that. I always end by saying that this is what I did. This is how I came up. It doesn't mean that everybody has to follow this and this is the only way. This is how I did it.
I think you have a lifetime of wisdom and also you've been a practitioner, and I think they've talked about a lot of tools and way of looking at things. I'm pretty sure a lot of people will get a lot of food for thought, and hopefully they'll pick and choose and apply where it's relevant. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Nice.
Thank you.
Thanks.
At SparX, we aim to bring to you stories of exponential impact. We share in-depth analysis of what goes behind success stories. If you find our conversations interesting, you can join us by subscribing to our YouTube channel. You can also listen to SparX on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or any other audio platform of your choice. If you have any suggestions on who we should invite or what topics we need to cover, just let us know in the comments. We are always listening, looking for ways to improve, and keep getting better as we go along.